All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about what really separates the one-hit wonders from the true champions. You know, the ones who stay on top year after year. It's a question that pops up everywhere, from sports to business and pretty much any high-stakes field. So think about this. We all love to celebrate the climb, right? That moment of victory when you finally reach the summit. But the real story, the one that actually defines a legacy, isn't about getting there. The real question is, what happens once you're standing at the peak? Yeah, guessed it. It's staying there. And if you look at the data, the stories, the history books, they all point to the same thing. The hardest part is holding on to that top spot. And here's the kicker. Your biggest threat isn't some rival you can see coming. Nope. It's an internal enemy, one that sneaks up on you when you're feeling good. Complacency. Just look at the evidence, right? Take the Super Bowl. In over 50 years, with tons of champions, only a measly 8 teams have ever managed to win back-to-back. And a three-peat? Forget about it. Has never happened. That is just a staggering statistic that shows you how incredibly hard it is to keep that winning edge. And hey, this isn't just a football thing. Check out baseball. If you take out those legendary old-school Yankee dynasties, repeat championships are super, super rare. The vast majority of teams who win the World Series just can't get that magic back the next year. It just goes to show, winning once is one thing, but building a dynasty, that's a whole different ballgame. So this difficulty brings us to our first big idea, the slippery summit. We're going to dig into why exactly it's so tough to stay on top. What happens in your head, in the locker room, in the boardroom, that makes a repeat so tough. And it all comes down to this word, complacency. It's this sneaky process where that hunger that drove you to the top gets replaced by, well, the comfort of just enjoying the win. You go from being the hunter, totally focused, to suddenly being the hunted. And that sharp edge that got you there, it starts to get dull. It happens to everyone. Athletes, CEOs, artists, you name it. Okay, but here's where it gets really fascinating. The very thing that makes you a winner, that intense, unstoppable drive to achieve, can actually become your biggest weakness. It's like a superpower that, if you're not careful, turns into a fatal flaw. And this isn't just a theory. You've got research from the Harvard Business Review that shows leaders who are driven purely by achievement, well, they often develop a dark side to their leadership. Their laser focus on hitting goals, which is great in the short term, can actually start to poison the well and hurt long-term success. So you really have to understand the difference here. On one hand, you've got the achievement motive. This is all about me, my goals, my performance, my checklist. But on the other hand, you have the socialized power motive. This is all about we. It's about coaching people up, building the team, and making a collective impact. The best leaders have a mix, but those overachievers, they often get stuck way too far in that me column. And this is what happens when they get stuck there. These high achievers, when the pressure is on, they tend to fall back on 2 leadership styles. First is pace setting. That's the I'll just do it myself hero mode, which ends up making everyone else feel useless. The other is the directive style. That's the command and control, my way or the highway approach, which just kills any new ideas. Both of these, they're absolute trust killers. Okay, so that's the problem. What's the fix? Well, some of the greatest coaches of all time figured this out. They made a radical shift. They decided to stop focusing on the prize and start obsessing over the process. Take the legendary coach Nick Saban. He built a college football dynasty on a simple philosophy he calls the process. But here's the thing. It wasn't born out of some big win. It was born from a moment of pure desperation back in 1998. His Michigan State team was a massive underdog, and they were about to play the undefeated #1 team in the country, Ohio State. So, facing these impossible odds, what does Saban do? He tells his team to forget about winning the game. Seriously. He tells them to focus on just one thing, executing the current play perfectly. That's it. Do your job on this one play, and when it's over, wipe it from your memory and focus on the next one. And what happened? By obsessing over the process of each moment, the outcome took care of itself. They pulled off one of the greatest upsets in college football history. And you see the same idea playing out with another legend, Bill Belichick. He built his own dynasty on an even simpler mantra. Do your job. It's the exact same core concept, right? A relentless focus on your individual responsibility, your specific task, and trusting that the person next to you is doing the same. This idea of individual responsibility, it's the foundation for building an entire culture of ownership. And maybe no team on earth does this better than one of the most dominant teams in the history of sports. I'm talking about the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team. Their winning percentage has been over 75% for more than 100 years. It's insane. And their modern dynasty was really built on this motto: better people make better All Blacks. This whole philosophy came from a moment of crisis in 2004, when some bad player behavior forced them to totally rethink their entire culture. So they completely flipped the script. They moved away from that old-school top-down coaching model and created what they call a dual management system. They literally handed over ownership of the team's culture and strategy to the players themselves. The whole goal was to create self-reliant leaders who are growing as human beings, not just as guys who could play rugby. And building a culture like that means you have to be willing to make some incredibly tough calls. Belichick had a rule: no one is bigger than the team. Back in 2003, he proved he meant it. He cut a star player, a team captain, Lawyer Milloy, because he wouldn't put the team's needs before his own contract. It sent a shockwave through the league, but the message couldn't have been clearer. The team and the process comes first. And once you know it, they won the Super Bowl that year. All right, so we've seen how the greats do it. How can we take these ideas and actually apply them to our own work, our own lives? Let's boil all this down into a simple, actionable playbook for staying on top. Okay, here it is. 5 key habits. Number 1, start every day from scratch. Yesterday's win is yesterday's news. You got to earn it again today. 2, surround yourself with honest feedback. You need people who will tell you the truth, not just what you want to hear. 3, and we've hammered this home, focus on the process, not the outcome. 4, continuously learn and adapt. The world doesn't stand still, and neither can you. And finally, number 5, recharge your batteries. Seriously, burnout is the enemy of excellence. You have to build in time to rest. You know, when you boil it all down, the big takeaway from all these champions, Saban, Belichick, the All Blacks, is what Aristotle said thousands of years ago. Excellence isn't some grand act. It's not a destination you finally arrive at. It's a habit. It's the small things you do over and over every single day. And that really leaves us with one final question for you to think about. If excellence is a habit, what's the one small, repeatable action you're going to commit to starting today to build your own cycle of success?